In the Republic, Plato explores the nature of justice, the ideal state, and the human soul through a series of dialogues, primarily between Socrates and his companions. The work opens with a question: what is justice? Socrates, as the main speaker, engages in philosophical discussions to uncover not only the meaning of justice but how it relates to the individual and society as a whole. The dialogue begins with Cephalus, a wealthy elder, defining justice as honesty and paying debts. Socrates, however, challenges this view. He questions whether it is always just to return something harmful, such as returning a weapon to a madman. The conversation then shifts to Polemarchus, Cephalus' son, who argues that justice is about helping friends and harming enemies. Socrates dismantles this too, showing that harming anyone, even enemies, cannot be considered just. The next challenge comes from Thrasymachus, a sophist, who insists that justice is merely the advantage of the stronger, meaning that rulers make laws to benefit themselves. Thrasymachus claims that the unjust person, especially a tyrant, is more successful and happier than the just person. Socrates disagrees, arguing that justice is a virtue and essential to the health of the soul, just as physical health is essential to the body. A just person lives in harmony, while an unjust one is plagued by inner disorder and unhappiness. To further explore justice, Socrates proposes examining it on a larger scale in the form of an ideal city, or Kallipolis. The city is built from the ground up, beginning with basic needs: food, shelter, and clothing. As the city grows, it develops into a more complex society with different classes performing various functions. Socrates introduces the concept of specialization, where each person does the job for which they are naturally best suited. The city is structured into three distinct classes. Producers, which include farmers, artisans, and merchants, are responsible for providing the city's material needs. Auxiliaries, who are warriors, protect the city from external threats and maintain internal order. Guardians, or philosopher kings, are the rulers who govern the city with wisdom and knowledge of the good. Each class corresponds to a part of the human soul. The producers represent the appetitive part, which craves physical satisfaction. The auxiliaries embody the spirited part, which seeks honor and courage. The guardians correspond to the rational part, which seeks truth and wisdom. Just as the ideal city is ruled by the guardians, the human soul must be ruled by reason for justice to prevail. Justice, Socrates concludes, is the proper ordering of the city and the soul. In the city, justice occurs when each class performs its own role without interfering with the others. In the soul, justice occurs when reason rules over the spirit and appetite, creating harmony and balance. Socrates then moves to discuss the education of the guardians, which is crucial for the city's success. The education is rigorous, focusing on both physical training and philosophical study. Guardians are taught music, poetry, and gymnastics to shape both their minds and bodies. They are also educated in the forms, or ideal truths, particularly the form of the good, which is the ultimate source of knowledge and morality. To illustrate the nature of knowledge and reality, Socrates presents the famous allegory of the cave. In the allegory, prisoners are chained inside a dark cave, facing a wall, only seeing shadows cast by objects behind them. These shadows represent the illusions that most people take as reality. One prisoner is freed and ascends out of the cave, symbolizing the philosopher's journey from ignorance to enlightenment. As the prisoner emerges from the cave, he sees the sun, which represents the form of the good, illuminating all truths. The philosopher, having seen the real world, must return to the cave to help others see the truth, despite their resistance. The philosopher king, therefore, is the ideal ruler because they have knowledge of the good and are best equipped to lead the city toward justice. However, Socrates acknowledges that most people prefer the comfortable illusions of the cave to the challenging pursuit of truth. This makes the philosopher's role difficult but necessary. Socrates also explores the concept of the four unjust regimes, which arise when the ideal city deteriorates. These regimes correspond to different forms of government and different types of individuals. Timocracy arises when the spirited part of the soul dominates reason. The rulers seek honor and military prowess, but without philosophical wisdom, the society becomes increasingly aggressive. Oligarchy occurs when wealth becomes the ruling principle. The rich hold power, and society becomes divided between the wealthy few and the poor majority. The soul under oligarchy is dominated by the appetitive part, driven by greed. Democracy follows, characterized by the desire for freedom and equality. However, in democracy, all desires are treated equally, leading to disorder in both the city and the soul. People indulge their whims without restraint. Tyranny is the worst regime, where a single ruler seizes power through manipulation and violence. The tyrant's soul is enslaved by base desires, and the city suffers under their oppression. The tyrannical individual is the most unjust, for they are enslaved by their passions, lacking any semblance of order or harmony. The just person, by contrast, lives in accordance with reason and experiences true happiness. Socrates concludes that justice is always preferable to injustice. A just person's soul is harmonious and ordered, while an unjust person's soul is conflicted and miserable. The truly happy life is the life of virtue, guided by wisdom and truth. Even in a world where unjust individuals may seem to succeed in wealth and power, their inner lives are full of turmoil and dissatisfaction. Socrates further asserts that the rewards of justice extend beyond this life. In the myth of Error, a soldier named Error dies in battle and is brought back to life to recount his journey into the afterlife. He witnesses how souls are judged and sent either to heavenly rewards or to punishment. Those who live just lives are rewarded in the afterlife, while the unjust are punished. Souls are then reincarnated based on the lives they lived, choosing new lives in accordance with their past deeds. The myth serves as a final reminder that justice leads to both worldly and eternal rewards. The soul, shaped by justice, moves closer to truth and the good, while the unjust soul is condemned to a cycle of suffering. In the Republic, Plato presents a vision of the ideal state, a just society ruled by philosopher kings, where each person and each class performs their proper role. The harmony of the city mirrors the harmony of the soul, with justice being the ultimate virtue that governs both. Plato's work is not just a treatise on political theory, but a profound exploration of human nature, morality, and the pursuit of truth. If you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button to be a part of Quick Reads for people with no patience, and see the description below to find out how you can get the original classic. Who knows, we might have piqued your interest.